Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, the actor Timothy Chalamet went to the Oscars shirtless.
I'm Tony Kornheiser, and in tribute, I'm doing PTI pantsless. No, I'm not.
Yeah, well, I presume that whoever was watching could see Chalamet. Luckily, we can't see you.
Let me just say this. Maybe this kid thought that by going shirtless, he was going to be the big hit of the Oscars. But the big hit of the Oscars was Will Smith on Chris Rock. That was the big hit. As your text chain blew up last night to tell you that, right?
It did. It did. Yeah. I wasn't watching.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Nets and Lakers lose. Albert Pujols is back with the Cardinals. And did the U.S. men's soccer team celebrate too soon? But we begin today with the NCAA tournament and the last four teams standing: Duke, Villanova, Kansas, and North Carolina. You can hardly get more blue blood than these. This is the first time ever that all the teams in the Final Four have at least 3 championships. For all of our talk about upsets and all the teams that could win this, we got a group that feels like chalk. Wilbon, what do you make of this, and are you excited by it?
Tony, look, we saw enough early in the tournament to know that a bunch of teams are now packed together in the NCAA Men's Division I bracket in a way that they've never been before. I mean, we know that. We talked to coaches who talked about that and that effect on the game. But ultimately, as you said, this could have been different going into yesterday, but it wasn't different. And now you've got less than chalk, I just think, because you got a lower seed of 8 or whatever Carolina is. You got blue bloods. I'm not particularly excited about it. I was ready for something new, even though I was not rooting against these guys. I know these coaches, all 4 of them. You know these guys, all 4 of them.
Yeah.
So I wasn't rooting against them. I was sort of rooting for them, particularly Mike Krzyzewski. But now that we have them, I'm okay with it. Am I excited? Does it advance college basketball to a place that it had never been before? No, it doesn't. And so I was looking for a little something different, but I'm okay with this.
I'm excited by it. I like it a lot because you can add, you could add Kentucky or UCLA or Indiana. Maybe that would make it more blue bloods, but I'm okay with these 4 teams being in there. Kansas has the most wins in the history of college basketball. Carolina is 3rd, Duke is 4th, and Villanova's won twice in the last 5 or 6 years. So I think it's good. And I understand that you and I both thought that as many as 20 different teams could win this. But I think what we're going to get, Mike, is a very satisfying champion because of the way this has worked itself out. We're going to get one with a great pedigree. We're not going to get one where people go, well, was that a one-off? I mean, they're a really great program. We're going to get something with a great pedigree. So I am excited about it. Yesterday's games didn't excite me, though. They were unattractive games.
Dreadful.
Kansas
They were dreadful.
Crushed Miami in the second half. I think it was 46-17 in the second half. And Miami was just throwing up shots from 40 feet out with nobody underneath to rebound. But that one, I told you a few times in the last few weeks I thought Kansas was the best team. That was the half I saw. I just want to say this briefly. St. Peter's has nothing to be ashamed about. They should
great.
Be
proud.
They were the story of the tournament. Story of the tournament. And good for them. I expected Carolina to beat them because nobody at Carolina is recruiting the kids at St. Peter's. But St. Peter's was great.
Yeah. So let me say this real quickly. I don't want what is going to satisfy most people because most people are dopes. So I would like something that basically makes them go, oh, my God, I didn't expect that. That's what I would like. That's not what we've got. Okay. So we live with what we have. Let's move to the specific matchups here. North Carolina and Duke are going to face each other for the first time in NCAA tournament history. While the 2 teams split their season series, the Tar Heels blew out the Devils in Coach K's final game at Cameron. Duke is now the tournament favorite, Tony. But do you see the Devils as having any edge whatsoever against their hated rivals?
I'm going to get to that in a second, but I don't like to use the word unbelievable because everybody uses that. It's unbelievable to me that they have never met in the NCAAs. I understand that until 1975, there was only 1 team per conference, but it's 47 years, and they're in the tournament every single year. How is it possible that they've never met? Now to your question, do I give Duke an edge? In this regard, I give Duke an edge because they were beaten badly at Cameron in the way that they beat Carolina badly in the Dean Dome, and revenge is a big factor, and that's how I think it might play out. But I'm going to say this for our mutual friend and Carolina grad, Curry Kirkpatrick. Nobody at Carolina who's a fan of Carolina wants any more than this. We beat Krzyzewski in his last game at Cameron, and now we can put him out in his last game ever. That would give Carolina fans, Mike, bragging rights forever in their minds. And Krzyzewski is now, I think this will be his 100th game coaching against Carolina. He's 50-49, so you could deny him a winning record, and Carolina fans are salivating for that.
Yeah, I think Duke has a big edge in this game. I mean, I think the way Duke has responded since one loss a game later against Virginia Tech, the way they've played, and we've talked about this, Tony, the way they've played, they pulled themselves out of any sort of funk or any sense of being overwhelmed, and then they went on to either beat people or a couple of times stomp people. And I think that the start of this game, Duke is going to race off to some big lead. I'm not saying they'll hold it. I'm not saying it'll be a blowout. But I think to start this, the Devils are going to be as excited and as purposeful as they could possibly be. And that's sort of how we're going to see this game. Tony, it's not, it's not a surprise to me because a rivalry closer to me, Bears-Packers. A few years ago, 2010, when they played, and the NFL is 100 years old, that was the first time they'd ever played in the playoffs. First time. A rivalry which is similar, a little bit more lopsided now. Those teams that never played either. So I wasn't all that shocked that they hadn't played.
Here's what I'll say, two small things. I think it'll be the highest rated basketball game, pro or college, in the last 10 to 15 years. I think people want to see it. And where I won't go is I won't sit with my daughter-in-law who's a Duke grad and her dad who's a Carolina grad. I want no part of that. None, zero.
No, you don't. That's elbows flying, baby.
Villanova has advanced to this lofty perch by being the most unselfish team in the tournament and the best foul shooters. But as they were beating Houston with only 35 seconds left, they lost their second leading scorer, Justin Moore, to a torn Achilles. They're thin to begin with, and they're playing Kansas, the lone remaining number 1 seed. Wilbon, do you count out Villanova now?
No. It's not like they're missing Magic Johnson. No disrespect to this young man, who's a terrific player at his level. He's been terrific for Villanova in every way imaginable. This Villanova team is not a particularly deep team. Seems like Villanova never is particularly deep, going back to Raleigh in 1985. They have a few players they really depend on. They have a couple of kids who played early in the season that they're going to have to lean more on in this game and in the next one if they make it. So, but no, Tony. I mean, people are going to overstate this. And the other thing is Jay Wright. Come on. Jay Wright's got several days now to prepare. And that young man, if he can be at practice or be around the team to inspire them, probably will. And they'll figure this out. Villanova will figure this out. And to me, they'll be as close to as good as they could possibly be in a short term. They're not playing without him for 6 weeks. They're trying to play without him for a max of 2 games.
Yeah, I'm tempted to agree with you because I think what a good team can do is they can summon up all the adrenaline that they have and they can win 1 game. I'm not sure they can win 2, but they can win 1 game. But in this particular case, I'm going to go the other way and tell you I'll be surprised if they beat Kansas. And yet the game plays into their hands in this regard. They can play slow and methodical. They like to do that. They're the only team left that can win. Yeah, the only team left that can win in the 50s and win in the 70s. They are physically strong. They are incredibly disciplined. And they've got, as you say in Jay Wright, a great coach. But, and there's always a but, Kansas is an awfully good team. And the guy they got on their bench is not a bozo.
They got a great coach, too.
So, so I'm thinking, me personally, I'm thinking that the big edge now goes to Kansas. That's just my thought. But I'm so happy. All these teams in it, they've got such great histories. Let's take a break. Coming up, is Albert Pujols' return to St. Louis significant or simply ceremonial?
And the Lakers, God, they coughed up a 23-point lead against the Pelicans in what LeBron and Russell Westbrook had called a must-win game. The Lakers, oh my God. They're just
What do I tell you about the Knicks in 2 words? I tell you they stink. It's mail time. You stick to asking the questions. We'll handle giving the answers. Nobody gets hurt, okay? Let me see what's
mail
first.
Time?
Which team had the more concerning loss yesterday, the Nets or the Lakers?
I flip-flopped. I thought about this for the last couple of hours, knowing we're going to discuss it. I flip-flopped 100 times. And I'm going to land on permanently now, the Lakers had a more concerning loss because they're going to miss the playoffs. They're going to miss the play-in. All right, LeBron James has this foot injury, foot, ankle, whatever. And Tony, they're acting like, okay, he's going to miss the next game. I don't know that LeBron's going to play. I know the scoring title is probably important. He needs to play 3 more games to qualify. But, Tone, they're terrible. They're not engaged. I don't know that LeBron is engaged with them. He's playing great individual basketball, but the team stinks, as we said going into the break. So the answer is the Lakers. They can't beat New Orleans. They got the hardest remaining schedule in the NBA, and the Spurs are playing better. They're going to catch the Lakers and pass them, and the Lakers are going to miss the playoffs.
This is why I don't think that it is a concerning loss for the Lakers. Because every time we talk about the Lakers, it's about a game that they have just lost. They were up 23, and they're playing a team that's chasing them for the last playoff spot. Mike, the Lakers are 31-43. They've lost 15 of 20. Terrible. We got to get over the notion that any loss they have is consequential. And that's why I think it's the Nets' loss.
That's fair.
Because they lost to a team in Charlotte that they're fighting with to get into the playoffs, and they lost at home. And on a larger level, look, I don't think that they're in trouble, but on the larger level, there was a mythology that Kyrie Irving would finally go back to Brooklyn and he would walk on water. That didn't happen. Happen.
No, it's one game. Next. It's one game, but I'm still betting on Durant to get in the playoffs. I'm no longer betting on LeBron to get in the playoffs.
Do you see the Cardinals signing of Albert Pujols as something closer to significant or ceremonial?
It's not closer to. It is ceremonial. And it doesn't mean Albert Pujols can't play in some designated hitter role or pinch hit against left-hand pitcher. Hey, that's fine. But it's ceremonial. Now, that could be important because his ability to mentor younger players, and people like Mike Trout have raved about that in the past, Tony, about Pujols' ability to do that. A baseball locker room, as you well know, it is the most important and delicate of the locker rooms in sports, a baseball locker room. So Pujols' ability to navigate that can help his team dramatically, and that's where his heart is, the Cardinals. But it's ceremonial.
Okay, so Pujols has said this is his last year. And it's wonderful that he's back with Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina. And it makes me believe that this is how he's going to go into the Hall of Fame as a Cardinal. There's not going to be any question about that. I'll make the case for significant like this. You mentioned being a DH against lefties, a pinch hitter against lefties. Last year against lefties, Albert Pujols batted .294. That gives you a chance to get bang for the buck if a guy's batting almost 300 against lefties. While he was with the Dodgers, I think he had 12 home runs and 38 RBI in only 200 plate appearances. So maybe there's something there. I agree with you. It's mostly ceremonial. But I think that you cannot discount the fact that it may well be significant as well. It may be.
Hard for me to see.
Last one.
There'll be more fall off probably.
Last one. Are you okay with U.S. players unfurling a banner that says qualified despite not yet being, qualified?
My God, what a low bar we in the United States of America have. And look how they just looked at it and said, we can't have this. And what are we talking about? You think, look, Italy didn't qualify. But do you think they would have celebrated qualification homes? No, they would not. And so every generation we talk about how important the United States soccer is going to be and how much better and more relevant it's going to be to the rest of the world. And somebody, the marketing people, I blame them for everything as I should. Some marketing genius decided to have qualification homes as a celebration. That person should be told to bring his playbook in and fire it.
So this is a potential Tracy McGrady moment where Tracy McGrady was telling everybody what it was like to finally get to the second round, and he couldn't get to the second round. When he was a good player, he never got to the second round. So it's potentially embarrassing. On the other hand, the United States team, as you well know because you called this wrong, tied in Mexico, which nobody thought was going to happen. And then they pounded Panama. And now to get into the World Cup, all they have to do is not lose to Costa Rica by 6 goals. When was the last time Costa Rica put 6 on somebody? And even if they lose, and they lose by 5, they're in. But then even if they lose by 6, which I don't think will happen, they get in a playoff with a team from Oceania that could be either New Zealand or the Solomon Islands. Now, come on. The Solomon Islands are not going to beat us. The Solomon Islands don't even have 1 million people. It's not like North Macedonia, a power. Come on, stop it. Enough
This shouldn't be important.
Let's take one last break.
This shouldn't be important. We shouldn't be celebrating
Still to come.
qualifying.
It's not
no matter who it's
important.
against.
It's not important.
Not important.
It's important for Tracy McGrady. Is Bill Belichick
Get off
smart
Tracy
or
McGrady.
insane to have no offensive or defensive coordinators this season?
And how will Robert Williams' injury affect the suddenly East-leading Celtics? I was ready to pick the Celtics to win the East now that Miami has bumped its head, fallen, and cannot get up, apparently. I'm ready to pick the Celtics, but this injury could...
Happy time, people. Happy 31st birthday, Derek Carr. The Raiders quarterback is now reunited with his college roommate at Fresno State, wide receiver Davante Adams. Adams set Mountain West Conference career records of 38 touchdown catches and 223 receptions when Carr was throwing to him. In total, Adams set 14 Mountain West records and 11 Fresno State records with Carr. The two of them will have a new coach this season, Josh McDaniels, who was so successful for so long as offensive coordinator at New England. Carr is coming off a season where he completed 68.4% of his passes for 4,804 yards and led the Raiders, despite all their distractions, to the playoffs.
That was impressive, but don't half the quarterbacks now complete 65% of their passes or more? It's not like it's 1970 when guys are throwing the ball more than 3 yards down the field. Look, he had an impressive season, I'll give you that. But 68.4 means nothing to me anymore. You know, does that mean he was better than Darryl LaMonica? Better than Kenny Stabler when they were completing 55%? No, it doesn't. Just the way the game is played.
4,800 yards, though, is pretty good. Happy anniversary, Christian Laettner. On this day 30 years ago in the Spectrum in Philadelphia, Laettner hit arguably the most famous shot in college basketball history. Duke was down by 1 to Kentucky in the Elite Eight with 2.1 seconds to go. Grant Hill, unguarded on the end line, threw a perfect pass to Laettner at the opposite foul line. Laettner caught it, slid to his right, dribbled once, turned back to the basket, and rose up for a jump shot that won the game for Duke. Laettner was perfect on the night, 10 for 10 from both the field and the foul line. Now, in Mike Krzyzewski's last dance, Duke is back in the Final Four, and Laettner is celebrating Duke's unique shade of blue in beer commercials.
You were there?
Yeah.
Is that your favorite moment as a sports writer in a half century? That?
I was there sitting with Ryan and Lupica. No, I was at the Flutie game also with my feet in the end zone.
Isn't that better than Flutie?
I can't make that. I can't say that. I got him even. I got him even, Mike. I do. I got him even. I do.
All right.
Happy to be at both of them. Happy trails, Robert Williams. The Boston Celtics starting center suffered a meniscus tear in his left knee last night in Boston's romp over Minnesota. Williams will miss several weeks at minimum. He has been at the heart of Boston's defensive prowess. The Celtics lead the NBA in defense, and they've won 24 of their last 28 games, and they've moved into first place in the Eastern Conference. Williams is first among 169 players this year who have defended at least 500 shots as the closest defender. He has held opponents under 40% shooting.
And he's the only one in the NBA to do that. And with him healthy and in there, and he's got some time maybe to get back in the second half of the playoffs, the Celtics are the best team in the East, the best. I don't know if they're anywhere near as good as the Suns, who I watched yesterday beat Philly in a great game, but the Celtics are the best in the East with him.
Okay, so hold on. You were on Miami all year. Now you're not on Miami. Are you saying that the Celtics will win? Are you saying the Celtics will win the Eastern Conference and go to the finals? Are you saying
if he comes back after 3 weeks and he's healthy, the Celtics will win the East. Yes, I've been on Miami. I'm jumping off. They can't beat anybody. They can't get over that incident from a week ago. Unbelievable.
All right. No errors. We go to the big finish. Let's do it. Bill Belichick says he won't have an offensive or defensive coordinator this season Because he's not big on titles. Does that make any sense at all?
Anything Belichick does makes sense until it doesn't work. So right now, it makes total sense to me if Belichick says, here's what we're doing. Scotty Scheffler moved to the #1 ranking after his win at the match play. You're impressed, aren't you?
Yeah, he's won 3 tournaments in about 6 weeks. He won the Waste Management in Phoenix. He won the Arnold Palmer, and he won this. He's totally on fire. On fire. Shaq and Steph Curry won Oscars in short subject documentary for the Queen of Basketball. Your thoughts?
Congratulations to them, and this space is now occupied, the Oscars, by NBA players, starting with the late, great, and brilliant Kobe Bryant, who won one a few years ago. Peyton Manning joked that he wants the bottle of wine and toothpaste letter back that he sent Tom Brady after his alleged retirement. You agree with that?
It's brilliant. Peyton Manning, he's got his hands on it all the time. He's brilliant. Last one, 2-seed UConn against 1-seed North Carolina State tonight for the Final Four. Who you got?
Man, Tony, UConn, I guess. You know, South Carolina and Stanford already advanced, but I got UConn getting back into the big action.
We're out of time. We will try and do better the next time, and I am Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now, here's SportsCenter.
Can't bet against UConn. You can't. You just can't.